Welcome back, accounting boffins. Right, we're busy with a question on the cash budgets. Once again, quick reminder, when you're dealing with a cash budget, remember we said you're talking cash, therefore receipts and payments. Okay, let's look at the question. The workers are dissatisfied with the increase that they will be receiving in August 2020. They've indicated that they will embark on strike action in October 2020 if the owner does not address their concerns. What is their concern? Let's look at the concern. Again, remember the salary of the workers, we've already calculated it in a previous component of the question where we found that their new salary was 32,960, which was an increase of 3%. All right. However, the bookkeeper also received an increase, and you can see, look at the bookkeeper. His previous salary was 18,000 and is now 19,800. Okay, clearly you can see that that is also an increase, and what is important is the following. Give one reason with figures why the workers are dissatisfied. Give one reason with figures that the owner could use to justify the increases that he is going to give the workers. So, this is the type of interpretation of the cash budget which you should be exposed to, which is important because this is also a possible examination question. So, answer. The workers, why will they be dissatisfied? One, they will be receiving a 3% increase, while the bookkeeper will be receiving a 10% increase. How did we get that? Let's go back and check this out here. Can you see the bookkeeper, if you take 10% of 18,000, will be 1,800. Add the 1,800 there will give you a figure of 19,800. So clearly you can see that they are receiving a 3% increase, that's your workers, whereas this bookkeeper is receiving a 10% increase. Clearly a disparity. Okay, then the 3% that the increase that they are receiving is lower than the inflation rate, which currently is maybe at 6%. Obviously, this figure here, this 6%, is going to be a variable, meaning depending on the economy at that time. So obviously, when this question was drawn up, the inflation rate at that time was 6% as opposed to the increase of 3%. So surely the workers would be dissatisfied because they are receiving an increase less than the inflation rate. However, if the inflation rate was 1%, then clearly this would not be valid. Why? Because they're receiving an increase of 3%, whereas the inflation rate is 1%, they're clearly receiving an increase above the inflation rate. So therefore, what I'm saying is the inflation rate is something that is a variable, meaning it will change. It changes whenever the inflation rate is worked out in the economy. So obviously that will be a variable, meaning changing with circumstances. Right, then give one reason with figures that the owner could use to justify the increases that he's giving to his workers. One, the business is experiencing cash flow problems as the bank balance is expected to be overdrawn at the end of August by 120,000. Obviously, based on the information that is provided to you, in this case here, because the cash flow is showing an overdraft of 120,000, it clearly indicates that the business cannot afford to give bigger increases. And as a result, they are limited to their increase, which already will result in an overdraft in the bank of 120,000 Rand. Okay, again, look at the information that is provided in the question. 2, your total sales figure for June, 89,100, is below the budgeted amount of 123,000. and he expects this trend to continue. Now, if your budgeted sales figure is less than your actual, it clearly gives you an indication, and the fact that this trend is expected to continue tells you that the sales are on a decline. Obviously, if your sales are on a decline, your cash flow will be on a decline because obviously you have less sales. This will be a justification for the owner to say, sorry gentlemen, I can't give you a bigger increase because firstly, our bank account is in overdraft, and there's a clear indication that the sales figures, based on the trend, they are decreasing, obviously, and we're expecting this trend to continue. Here you can see, based on this information here now, we have the sales figure, we have the cost of sales figure, we have the gross profit, we have the delivery cost, and we have the advertising cost. These were your budgeted figures, these are your actual figures. Okay. The owner decided to offer trade discounts to special customers in July 2020. In your opinion, has this benefited the business? Provide figures to support your answer. What is important, accounting boffins out there? Whenever the question says provide figures, then you have to substantiate your answer with figures from the question. That is important because you will notice, if you look at marking guidelines, you will see wherever they say provide figures, it indicates to you that marks will be allocated to those figures as well. Okay, so now let's compare. No, actual sales were 84,000 compared to the budgeted of 108,000. Let's look at it. There's my actual sales figure, 84,000 Rand. I budgeted at 108,000 Rand. So clearly, this particular idea of giving special discounts or trade discounts to special customers has resulted in my actual sales not being equal to my budgeted amount, as a result of which, clearly you can see that your profit that you budgeted for was 36,000, but you only achieved an actual gross profit of 24,000 Rand. So definitely, your answer here is no. The actual sales were 84,000 Rand compared to the budgeted figure of 108,000 Rand, clearly telling you here that it is not benefited the business. It actually, it caused us, if we look at if we compare the two figures, we've actually lost out. And I've shown you, when you compare the actual profit figure as well, you can see that your gross profit you've not achieved your targeted gross profit of 36,000, rather you only realized a profit of 24,000 Rand. Okay. Explain what you would say to the owner about the control of delivery costs, right? Quote figures to support your answer and provide 1 point of advice in each case. Right, let's start with the delivery cost. What do we know? Firstly, let's look at the delivery cost figures that we have here. We budgeted a delivery cost of 10,800. All right? That was a budgeted amount. And the actual amount was 12,600. So clearly, you overspent the budget. You have what we call a negative variance, meaning you spent more than you budgeted for. Okay. Let's look at our responses here. With regards to the delivery cost, our sales were less than the budget. Okay, let's check that out. Our sales definitely were less than the budget, as you can clearly see. You budgeted 108,000, you actually had sales of 84,000, meaning that your sales were less than your budget. Number two, so your actual delivery expenses should decrease. Why? Because your delivery expenses is directly proportionate to your sales. The more you sell, obviously, the more you sell, the higher your delivery expenses. But in this case here, your sales decreased. So definitely your delivery expenses had to decrease as well. Okay? And you can see the reason why. Because less sales would mean less delivery expenses. What advice would we give? One, investigate the possible fraud or inefficiency. Right? There's a possibility that fraud is taking place, or we're being inefficient in planning our deliveries. Two, change the delivery firm. If you're using a particular firm to do your deliveries, definitely you can see that they need to be changed, or we need to investigate with them. Why is it that our delivery expenses are increasing when our sales are decreasing? Also, maybe start charging your customers for the deliveries, right? Obviously, it means that if the business cannot sustain the delivery expenses, then it may be possible, or one of the possibilities that we could look at for future is to charge our customers for deliveries outside, maybe have a free range, meaning 0 to 15 kilometers will be a free delivery. Outside of 15 kilometers, then you can start having a pro rata scale based on the distance in order to charge your customers for the particular goods that are being delivered to them. Okay. Once again, we look at our sales figures, cost of sales, our gross profit, our delivery we've dealt with. We're now looking at advertising cost, okay? Because that's the next part of the question. We budgeted 18,000, but we spent 23,000. Again, advertising. The owner has overspent the budget by 5,000 Rand. How do we get the 5,000 Rand? By comparing. Watch, we compare. Our actual amount was 23,000 minus your 18,000 will give you a figure of 5,000 Rand. Clearly you can see that we've overspent the budget by 5,000 Rand. However, although we spent more on advertising, what impact did it have on my sales? Remember, there's a direct link between your advertising and your sales. The idea of advertising is to increase and maximize your sales. Clearly you can see this did not lead to an increase in sales. Clearly evident. You budgeted 108,000, you only had actual sales of 84,000 Rand. Meaning therefore, investigate why the advertising was ineffective. Okay, clearly your advertising was ineffective, so you need to investigate it. So can you see, once again, the interpretation of your cash budget is of utmost importance because it gives you important information which you can then use to make decisions. Clearly, investigate why your advertising was ineffective. Number two, improve your method of advertising. Look at your target market. Who are you targeting? Is your advertising appropriate for that target market? So clearly, in terms of the person responsible for your advertising campaign, right? Or the advertising company that does your advertising for you, this definitely needs an intense investigation to determine why are we spending more on advertising, we're overspending our budget, which is what we call a negative variance. And even though we have a negative variance, clearly you can see it did not improve my sales. So on the contrary, if you had overspent your budget, but it resulted in a substantial increase in your sales, then you can justify overspending your budget. But clearly in this case here, this cannot be the case because although you overspent your budget, it it resulted in a decrease of your sales. Okay, guys, that's the end of today's lesson. You can clearly see we focused on an actual question and you were exposed to different components of a question on the cash budgets. So what do? The best way to prepare is to do as many activities, questions on cash budgets, expose yourselves to the various types of questions that can be posed, and once you do that, I promise you, you will ace the exam. This section on cash budgets, you would ace it in the exams, you thoroughly understand it. And remember one more thing, practice makes perfect. And critical to all of this is once you love the subject and you have passion for the subject, I can guarantee you immediately you will see a definite increase in your results. So what you budgeted for your results, the actual will be much higher because of the effort that you have put in. Until the next time, from me, Ashraf Patel, and the crew, keep your feet on the ground and be good. Goodbye.